Not sure if you guys can see this yet, but this is a stream, and if you're watching, you might want to skip like 5-10 minutes ahead until something interesting happens, because not sure if you guys can see this yet. Here we go. Okay, beautiful. We're live. I don't know if anyone's going to watch me today, frankly, especially after what's going on with Trump at the rally and the assassination attempt. I'm sure everybody's watching the news, so that's just how it be sometimes. Where are my sound effects? I'm just going to get some stuff ready, see if anybody comes in. If nobody comes in, I'll probably just kill the stream, but we'll see. I'm supposed to be reacting to a Psychacks video today. Let me see if this works. Beautiful. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to react to, but Mr. Pitt saved the day and sent a message in the Discord with something to react to. So I'm just going to give this a few minutes, see if anybody comes in. And we'll see how it goes. So oh God. All right. Okay. I spent all day at the at my buddy's house. My buddy just bought a house. If anybody's in the chat, feel free to say hi, and then I'll get the stream started. But yeah, I spent. Yo, Klaus, welcome in, man. Thank you. You're saving the stream. Hope things are okay in Germany. I'm sure you probably caught the news so far. I just been reading all about what's going on with the Trump assassination attempt. Yo, Mr. Pitt, welcome in. Hey, Mr. Pitt, thank you for suggesting content for this week. You know what's funny? It's like I thought about it, I couldn't think of anything, and then you suggested something, and then I made the stream premiere, and then I was like, oh damn, I thought about other stuff I wanted to do, but I'll just save it for next week. It's Complicated channel had a video where he interviewed the creator from the 33 Secrets, Matt Cross, and I actually wanted to react to his interview on It's Complicated channel, because I actually watch Matt Cross's channel like all the time. Every day when I'm driving home from work, I watch Matt Cross, because he always posts a video at like right at afternoon time. And so when I'm driving home, it's like a few hours old, and I was just like, oh damn, this is tight, you know. But yeah, man, I've just been looking at the Trump stuff. That stuff is crazy, man. He's a very lucky man. He's very lucky. That bullet just missed him, and I can't believe it. I mean, you know, he's probably gonna win in a landslide now, because most Americans just aren't gonna accept what happened, and I think any of the middle of the roaders will be like, no way, you know what I mean? And freaking Biden, you know, Biden's doing so bad, and like he refuses to step down. There's so many conspiracies on like who done it at this point, and there better be like a serious investigation, just like there was a Russia collusion investigation, because that was crazy. There's also been a just in, we don't know for sure because this stuff is so early, right, and there's so much misinformation, but apparently it was a transgender woman, allegedly. That's what I'm seeing on Twitter. So that could possibly indicate some motivations, though I doubt it. And I like to get real conspiratorial, you know what I'm saying? And like this could be CIA, this could be Biden's guys, man, this could be New World Order, this could be anything. So anyways, we'll put that back down. Yeah, so that's the situation. I'll give it a few more minutes, see if anybody else comes in. Other than that, I'll start things off. My good buddy from childhood just got this new house, so I spent most of the morning. We drove down. He's about like 15 minutes away from me, but me and my other buddy went because he's doing some renovations on the house, and I was just helping him spackle some stuff before he starts painting in the rooms. But the cool thing about his house is he's living out there in a rural area, and he's got 3 acres, which is super freaking cool, man. Like I'm just so used to living in a suburb and being able to like walk around a house that has so much land. It's like very liberating. It's a lot of responsibility though, especially like, you know, the grass is it's summertime now, so a lot of the grass is dead, but when winter comes, fall, spring, that grass is about to be growing crazy. And it's a lot of land. But what they do is they got a bunch of goats and sheep, and there's little holes in the fences, and certain people, like, they got agreements with the neighbors, and the sheep just kind of go through the holes and they eat all the grass. So that's one way to do it. Mr. Pitt says, glad I could help you push through to find that creativity. Do they call it streamer's block? I think so, man. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't find it. You know, I'm finally like back to normal. Well, I still got 2 of the dry sockets, so if I drink anything too cold, the nerve in the old wisdom tooth holes will hurt. But most of the pain is gone, and I can eat pretty much normally, except sometimes some food gets stuck in there. But I'm just really grateful. So I do want to get back to hopefully doing some more content going forward. And, you know, so I just want to get back into the phase, because when you start making video after video after video, what happens is you just start seeing things and seeing things and seeing things. And you're like, that can make a video, that can make a video, that can make a video. And you'll notice that, like, if you ever make videos of your own, that you just start to develop an eye from it. We got a couple videos, though. I know you put 3 of them in the Discord server. And I was going to do the why successful men use escorts first. I did actually listen to that one before, but I think it's interesting conversation. And, you know, it totally reminds me of, like, Coach Greg Adams, because he's always talking about the JUCO, and that's kind of his thing. I think he's more of an advocate for this, where a lot of the, I guess you can say, other manosphere guys probably would not really be about it, you know what I mean? Because it reminds me of the original stream way back before Fresh and Fit and Abba and Preach had their kind of rivalry begin, but where they had Abba on the channel, and Abba and Myron had a conversation, well, with Walter too, a conversation about paying for box. And, you know, Abba was a little bit more chill about it. And Myron, you know, they're not about like doing that. Like, they weren't like totally against it, but it kind of goes against, I guess, self-improvement or whatever. You know what I mean? It just doesn't fit their kind of lane of stuff. But Abba was pretty chill about it. And it was really, I think that conversation, I think it was literally over that exact point of the conversation that Abba then made a reaction video. And then we got, you know, the lore that we have now between Fresh and Fit and Abba and Preach. The JUCO is fire. Oh man, I got this sound effect just for that. I hope it's not too loud, by the way. I might need to put that down, actually. So let me just move that here. Yeah, but oh, shout out to Will. Hey man, I'm sorry, I didn't see your message earlier. Huh, that's weird. I can see it on my widget thing. All politicians are liars and crooks. Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. They definitely are. Man, I don't even know what to make about all that now, because, you know, I don't know why I gravitate towards the conspiracies sometimes. And you know what I mean? It's like, man, that person fired the bullet and it grazed past Trump's ears, and whoever the Secret Service people were like immediately on it and took out the would-be assassin. And it's like they spotted it super quick after that, but they didn't see the person on the roof. And if you look at the area, it's like there seems to be like one large building. I mean, there's a few of them, but it's in a field, and then it's like an obvious building where you would think there would possibly be like a risk for this kind of thing. But, you know, everybody says that in 2020. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a Secret Service person. Will Boosner, you need the Adominus horror movie sound on the board. I'll look that up. There was a couple other sound effects I added to my list. I wanted to get the the oh my god sound effect. I think that's pretty funny. Odd Dominus sound effect. I'm not even sure what that is, but I'm sure it could be pretty funny. I'll find it later. Maybe you can always message it to me, because what I do is I'll just take the sound and make it as a sound effect. But yeah, anyway, so I got to experience that earlier, the freedom. And what I really want to do is I like to shoot, I like to do archery. So it's really cool because my buddy lives out here, and I can just buy a couple hay bales from like down the street, because it's like a bunch of farmer types, you know, and stack up like 3 or 4 hay bales. And then what I've really wanted to do is make a video of me shooting my bow, which I do plan to do eventually. I really wish I brought my drone with me today, but yeah, so we did some work out there, and then I headed back and just came home, took a nap. So anyways, we'll start with the why successful men use escorts, and some of these other ones look pretty good because he made three more videos, and maybe we can decide which one we want to watch after. I haven't seen the other 3, so we'll start off with this. Man, at first I named the stream his exact title, Why Successful Men Use Escorts. Then I felt bad about it because I'm like, like, because, you know, there's a stigma when it comes to that kind of, and it's like, oh man, do I want like that on there, you know? So then I changed it to what the rich and beautiful have in common. But the title is actually Why Successful Men Use Escorts. So it's just kind of a weird ass thing. Oh damn, I'm getting a call. I'm gonna have to just I'll call you later. It's all good. I'm gonna have to call him in like 3 hours. All right, so let's go ahead and get this going on. Everybody knows I'm pretty much streaming at 7. Oh crap. Okay. And if this ain't loud enough, man, let me know. So we'll get into this. I still can't get my mind off the Trump situation. I don't know why. I'm just thinking about what's going to happen with that. So I remember, I know I've got to stop talking about it, but I remember Biden coming out and saying he ain't, you know, he's not going to step down and all this stuff. And whoever's behind there pulling the strings, and it's just like, man, it's almost like Biden has almost the same chance of getting tapped out the same way Trump does, because it's like someone behind the scenes is like, step down, because they want the Dems to win, and then he won't step down, and it's like, okay, take out Trump or take out Biden to force something else. But if it's Kamala Harris, then they're probably still not going to win, so they went with trying to get Trump out. That's my conspiracy anyways. All right, here goes. Man, I really like Psychacks. This guy is so sharp, and like he's like an actual like academic. He's been working in his field. When he first came out, like, he has such a good way of explaining like red pill stuff in a way where it's hard to just dismiss him as like a crazy person or like an angry person. You know, he has such great demeanor and a way of presenting and discussing his ideas in such a like sane, rational way. That's where he's not just trying to attack people, and it's hard to just dismiss him. So he's like a shining light in this field. Anyways, let's move on.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psychacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is why successful men use escorts. This is the first part in a 3-part series on this subject, so you'll need to be patient to hear the whole story. I'm going to begin this talk by explicitly stating this is not an endorsement for prostitution. Personally, I have never hired an escort or a prostitute in my life. And
I feel like everybody who talks about this has to say that. Because even if they did, I mean, I'm sure the legality is not going to help the situation, right? Like, you know, say he did. He can't be open about it. I mean, I believe him, though. I don't think he's, you know, whatever. It's just funny, though. It's like, well, here's my thoughts about this, but just let me preface it with this. I think probably Coach is the only one who's ever been honest about any of that stuff. So I respect him for that. Not saying he's being dishonest. I'm just saying, like, everybody needs to come to this and be like, I wouldn't do it. But, you know.
To be honest, when I was younger, I used to be very judgmental with respect to the men who did. In so many words, I thought such men must be losers who, for whatever reason, couldn't otherwise get access to women unless they paid for it.
You know what's kind of funny? I don't know if you guys ever seen that meme where it shows, I'll see if I can pull it up, but it's usually like, it almost looked like a high IQ, low IQ. It's the meme where it has the standard distribution, and then on the lower end, it has like the dumb looking guy, and he has an opinion, and then there's the middle guy who's hella smug, and then there's like the genius guy way on the other side. And the genius guy has the same opinion as like the low IQ guy. Distribution. Oh my God, here it is. This is what I was talking about. Let me just see if I can find it. This is, oh man, come on. Let me get a freaking, I don't know why Google Images just doesn't make it any, this one right here, the bell curve. Any topic about programming, and then it's just like, here's like the really smart guy, and then this is like the sort of pea-brain guy. He's way down here. And then this is like all the average people. And it's just really funny, because the first thing I thought of, like, hearing what he's talking about in this video is like, he's not wrong to think that, I guess, in the beginning. Like, yes, people who can't get regular access will end up that way. But then it's like some people have so much money or they're so famous, it's almost not worth dealing with all the BS that happens here. So like this person and this person just end up both having, I guess, a reason to partake, you know, of that. It's just this really funny kind of weird thing. I guess another thing also that this kind of brings up is the saying, it ain't tricking if you got it. And I know Coach is, I think, a supporter of that phrase, but and again, I'm not above none of this stuff, but I do think it is still kind of doing that. But then at the same time, it's like, I'm not rich and famous, so I don't know what it's like to have so much on the line and then think, you know what, maybe it's better to just drop $1,500 on this, or fly out to so-and-so, or go to the JUCO or whatever it is, just to avoid all the bullshit. But I do think a lot of bullshit can still happen in those situations. You know what I mean? Because you see news reports about the JUCO going wrong sometime too.
And while I'm sure there are some unattractive or even some revolting men who use prostitutes for this reason, I actually don't believe they constitute the majority of an escort's clients. In fact, I've since radically changed my opinion of these men, in part due to numerous conversations I've had with men who have used escorts, and in part due to my own experiences in the sexual marketplace as I've become more successful. Though I can't say that I endorse the use of escorts.
Man, guys, him talking with clients and stuff reminded me of something. I've had like since like 2 conversations of people who reached out to me asking about like their child support case or their divorce and stuff. And one guy reached out to me on IG. He was in Australia, and he had a case out of Chicago. And, you know, we talked a little bit about how the international stuff works with the case here and what he can expect. And he appreciated talking to me a lot. And then another guy, my buddy used to work with them, who just bought the house, and his old coworker's going through a nasty divorce. He called me up. I talked to him for like 40 minutes, but I'll tell you guys more about that later so we can get back to the video. But the reason I said that is because I want to make another video where I'm offering people to, like, if they want to talk to me about their case, they can. It's weird. It reminds me of my old job, and it was like the part of the job that was kind of interesting to me, at least. And I'll just do it like donations based, because most of these people in this situation, I don't think they got money to throw out. But also donations would be easier for me, because then it's less pressure, and, you know, I'm not really tripping off it. But I just think it'd be a cool thing to offer people. And at best, I think it can help people feel a little bit better about what they might be able to expect with what's going on. So, yeah, him talking about that just reminded me. Later on after this, I can probably share a little bit more about the divorce story I heard. Man, his soon-to-be ex-wife is putting him through it. Mr. Pitt says, every time I've seen pay-for-play go wrong, it almost always involves a married man or a girl that got pregnant. Well, you know, that's funny. That was like the immediate thing I was thinking about, because I remember a coworker of mine, she was telling me, she used to be a trainer before I was, and she was telling me about cases she worked on where, you know, the women were escorts. And she told me about one of them where this woman was an escort, and this woman, I think she had like multiple kids, but she waited for a bit before she came into the agency. And when she came down to the agency, she had like multiple guys, and she had all their information. She had their social security numbers. I don't really know how she got all this. She had to have been like a sugar baby style escort to be getting all these information out of people or something. She came right into the office, man, and she had all the stuff lined up, and, you know, they just opened the case for her, and she went and got her money. So it like, it can be, I get it, paying on the front end can be fine, but these women can also be super predators. Like, these women could be way more cutthroat than what I call civilians, than a civilian woman. Like, I mean, you know, it can go wrong either way, but these people can be straight up special forces, Marines level. So you got to be sharp, and you got to not over leverage yourself when it comes to that kind of thing. But yes, the pregnancy does happen, and as far as the laws go about that, they're not going to care what the situation was. So long as that kid is there, child support will be in full force and effect. So let's get back to this.
I can certainly understand it. And this talk is specific.
Honestly, man, I feel like the best thing is if you can, like, the ultimate fun, awesome thing would be, like, if you can be really wealthy without fame. That to me would be like a really amazing way to live. But having to be famous and everybody knows who you are at the same time seems like it really sucks, kind of. I mean, I'm sure it's still all right to not be impoverished. But if you can go to the grocery store and you're just like loaded and nobody knows, and it's like, so when you deal with like women on dating apps or even the JUCO or whatever, it's just like, well, I'm just some random guy. You know, I make like 60 a year before taxes, and you know, you can just keep it super vague. So they might not see you as a big fish.
Addressed,
which is what I want. I don't want to be seen as a big fish.
To women, to help them comprehend the types of problems unique to highly successful men, who are presumably the kind of men they would most like to target for a long-term relationship. By understanding how the economics of dating change as a function of success, women can better position themselves to secure the type of men with whom they most want to mate and date, provided they, like me, can move past the reflexive judgment they may carry with respect to the topic under consideration. Let's get to it. The fact of the matter is, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, the higher your normalized sexual marketplace value, the more traditional dating becomes increasingly expensive. In fact, the most attractive women and the most successful men often end up pricing themselves out of the dating market. This is why, for example, it's probably best for a woman to be like an 8.5. If you're,
you know, the interesting thing about this that comes to my mind, and this is something I used to think about while I was sitting at the desk at child support, it is about how our society punishes you more. The more successful you are, like the more you're punished. You know, I wish we lived in a society where it's like if you're more successful, you're incentivized, you're encouraged to have more kids, and you're incentivized to do that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get married right now and have 5 kids. But the way our system is set up, it's like if you're more successful, you just got way more to lose, and it can be like a bigger problem. And I wish it wasn't that way. It should be the opposite. It's like you worked hard and whatever, you're successful. There should be like caps on child support and things like that, to where it's like, okay, if it does go wrong, you know, then this is what it is to pay. And, you know, she's got less incentive to leave you, because it's like, well, you know, if I leave him, I'll get like this much, where maybe it's better for me to just live, I don't know, at home or whatever, you know what I mean? Instead of what I'm going to get. Like, I'll get a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of the railroad tracks. You know what I'm saying? Versus all the money they get now if they leave. So, yeah, they're priced out, but it's like really, I just think it's stupid that they're priced out. And it's just a crappy thing about where we live, you know? And then on the other end, if you got no money, basically, like if you're, you know, a Pookie or whatever, like, I can't think of another name. I mean, I've seen so many people, it doesn't matter what they look like, coming in the office, where it's like they got 3 baby mamas and they got like 4 kids, and they've never really had a real job. And so it's like you can't get blood out of a turnip, and we can try to charge them minimum wage, but they're incentivized to have as many kids as they want once they're already in the system. I used to call it going nuclear, because they don't really have any money. So I would see guys with child support orders of like $60 a month. I've seen some for like $12 a month, because they get split up with all the kids. But if you're rich, I mean, they're coming after you. So it's really backwards. So because of that, the guys who end up way at the top have to look at this escort stuff as an option, where if our society made sense, they can probably just get married and be okay about it. even get married multiple times, you know.
You're an 8.5, you're definitely attractive enough.
I'm in that successively.
To get plenty of attention and preferential treatment. However, because you're not like a world-class beauty, you actually avoid a lot of the downsides and liabilities associated with being fabulously attractive. These are problems that less attractive women don't even know exist and never have to deal with. They might roll their eyes at this suite of problems and say, oh, poor baby, can't handle being beautiful. I wish I had her problems. But frankly, that's really an envy reaction. The problems of really beautiful women are real problems. They're not problems of survival, but if we're honest, neither are the problems that their haters are contending with. Beautiful women receive little to no sympathy for their difficulties, not because their difficulties aren't real, but because there are so few other people who have experienced them.
I mean, you know, there's that, but there's also like the horde of simps. The simps are always there. And it kind of, the businessman, like if you got a lot of money, and I've met like some rich people, like just people who have money and people where other people believe that they have money and perceive them as having money. And it's not unlike being like a really attractive woman that everyone's always trying to sleep with. It's like people are constantly hitting up these guys with like their business ideas or their BS business ideas, or like they're constantly trying to be obsequious to them, trying to be nice, trying to flatter them. And I've seen so many guys, even with money, just get screwed, or there's like a story here, a story there, and then, you know, they're getting close to this guy, and then suddenly they get screwed over, and this person's gone, or they started a business with this person, and this person took all the money. And it's like that same sort of issue of trying to understand who's trying to screw you and who's not trying to screw you, who's just being a nice guy, so to speak. I guess the other side of this, like if you're a self-improvement maximalist, would be that, well, if it took you this long to get to the point where you're a successful businessman, you should be able to spot the kind of red flags before they get to you because you have this experience. But I've seen so many examples of where they still get screwed over.
The same thing holds true for men. The sweet spot for being a man is probably earning high 6, low 7 figures a year. That is more than enough to provide a comfortable and enjoyable lifestyle for yourself and your family. Anything more than that, and men start to deal with a suite of problems that less successful men don't even know exist and never have to deal with. And if anyone garners more unearned hatred than the beautiful, it's the wealthy. People scoff at the champagne problems of the rich, but the problems of really successful men are real problems. And these men experience even less sympathy for their difficulties than beautiful women do, not because their difficulties aren't real, but because there are so few other people who have experienced them. Now, you might think that being a highly successful man would be a wonderful liability in the sexual marketplace, and you would be correct. After all, if a man has wealth and status and fame, he typically enjoys very good optionality with women. So why would a man like this use escorts? It isn't as though there is a dearth of women who would be interested in dating him. Is it really true that all these men are just immature narcissists who delight in the objectification of women? Or might there be another explanation for this not uncommon behavior among this particular demographic?
I think it's interesting, too, because you think about the different situations. There might be a rich guy who's not married, and he just, you know, indulges in that. But then, you know, I think I always kind of imagined it as a lot of guys that are married, and then the marriage kind of just becomes performative, I guess, and it kind of loses that. And the guy just kind of, that would be the guy looking for the sugar baby, at least classically speaking, before this stuff kind of got popular. He's just in a marriage that, you know, it's kind of a dead bedroom or something, and it's just kind of an unspoken deal between the husband and the wife, and he just goes out and pays for this sometime, and he especially needs the discreetness because he is married, and so he's got appearances to keep up, you know. So he's basically paying to keep it discreet, you know.
But before I answer these questions, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message.
That's Mr. Pitt. Mr. Pitt sent this episode to me. Thank you, sir.
Because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. You can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this episode. I'm proud to announce that my book, The Value of Others, is now available for pre-sale on Amazon. It'll be released in just a few days. So take action now to get your hands on it. I'm also writing original.
This guy is just big chillin', man. He just lives in San Francisco, just having a good time. This guy is like, I don't know. He's an inspiration.
Content for my free weekly newsletter. If you'd like to sign up, you can do so on my website. Finally, please fill out an inquiry form on my website if you're interested in booking a paid consultation.
I once sent an inquiry form. This was before his channel got really, really big, but I was, just saying, hey, I worked at child support, and if you ever wanted to share that with your audience, but I never heard back from him, but it's all good.
Links to everything I just talked about are in the description below, so check them out. All right, let's get back to it. The reason why so many of these top-tier men use prostitutes is because it becomes prohibitively expensive to date traditionally once you cross a certain point. Let's examine why this might be the case. One of my good friends is a corporate lawyer, and he bills his time at $1,300 an hour.
God.
And that may sound like a lot, but it's kind of the going rate for a partner at a top-tier law firm. By the same token, there are folks in my space online who charge $2,000 to $3,000 an hour for a consultation. And then you get into the rarefied.
Kind of makes me think of like, I don't know if it was Fresh and Fit or some of those other, whoever it was, because I'd always hear it talked about in the manosphere that, they're charging like this many thousands or hundreds of bucks for like a half-hour phone call or something.
Realm of bank presidents, celebrities, tycoons, and professional athletes who can easily command tens of thousands of dollars or more for an hour.
You know what, man? And what the other thing this makes me think about is, how I talked about the dowry? Like when you're a guy and you're this rich and you're this sought after, it's like that's where the dowry system made sense, because it's like you're a high status guy. Your culture that you live in is asking that you have a lifetime monogamous relationship with one woman. That's marriage. That's supposed to be unbreakable. And because that's the case, and there's high competition for high status males, the woman and her family would then come together and put together a dowry to offer to him to marry the woman and take her on. And if you're a guy and you got like $1,200 an hour or something like that, like when it comes to getting married, it would need to be done so smartly, and her family would need to put down. Like she needs to be bringing something to this table. And if you look at the history, the one I remember from what I was researching was the King Henry VIII. And he got, that's the one, Anne Boleyn, those are his successive wives, like the wives after the first one. But the first marriage lasted a long time. And I don't even think she was executed. I think she died. I can't remember. I think she died from natural causes. King Henry VIII, first wife. Catherine of Aragon. Yeah. And so this first wife was married to him for 24 years. I'm trying to see what happened to her. How did she die? What happened to Catherine of Aragon after Arthur died? Catherine of Aragon. Because I don't think she was sent to the guillotine or anything like that. Not like the other wives and all that stuff that we hear about them. She was like his true first wife that bought the dowry over. Let's see how she died. Oh, shoot. Here we go. See this? A dowry of 200 ducats had been agreed. So she was originally betrothed to his older brother, Arthur. And Arthur had died. The 15-year-old Catherine departed from Coruña on 17 August 1501 and met Arthur on 4th November in Hampshire. Little is known about their first impressions of each other, but Arthur did write to his parents-in-law that he would be a true and loving husband, and told his parents that he was immensely happy to behold the face of his lovely bride. The couple had corresponded in Latin, but found that they could not understand each other's spoken conversation, because they had learned different Latin pronunciations. I think she was from Spain or Portugal or something. Then days later, on 14th November 1501, they were married at Old St. Paul's Cathedral. Yo, Trevor, welcome in, man. Great to see you. Appreciate you coming in here. A dowry of 200,000 ducats had been agreed, and half was paid shortly after the marriage. So they had paid 100,000 ducats to Arthur, King Henry VIII's older brother. All right, and there was still 100,000, I guess you can say, in escrow. That's how big dowries work. They would pay some up front, and sometimes they'd have like a monthly stipend coming out. And so this makes for a very attractive marriage proposal here to a king, to someone that's high status. And he dies. King Arthur dies. Arthur died on... Once married, Arthur was sent to Ludlow Castle on the borders of Wales to preside over the Council of Wales and the marches. As was his duty as Prince of Wales, and his bride accompanied him. A few months later, they both became ill, possibly with the sweating sickness, which was sweeping the area. Arthur died on 2nd April 1502. 16-year-old Catherine recovered to find herself a widow, okay? And keep in mind, they paid 100,000 ducats already. I thought it was crowns. I didn't realize it was ducats. I guess I got that wrong. At this point, Henry the seventh, faced the challenge of avoiding the obligation to return her 200,000 ducat dowry, half of which she had not yet received, to her father as required by her marriage contract should she return home. See, this is what a real marriage contract looks like. And it wasn't just kings doing this. It was like actual normal people. People all the way down the hierarchy did this. A dowry is something everybody really needed, you know. Following the death of Queen Elizabeth in 1503, yo, Meat Man, welcome in from Twitch. Psychacks was a great recommendation. Really was. Really saved the day. Following the death of Queen Elizabeth in February 1503, King Henry VII initially considered marrying Catherine himself. Okay, so that would be, I think, King Arthur's father. But the opposition of her father and potential questions over the legitimacy of the couple's issue ended the idea. To settle the matter, it was agreed that Catherine would marry Henry VII's second son, Henry, Duke of York, who was 5 years younger than she was. So he marries Catherine, and he gets the rest of the dowry. So that's how that works. So I'm saying all this to say, like, you hear so many women, they're like, I'm a queen and I'm looking for my king. If you want to occupy the seat of the queen, you need to be coming in there with something. The queen doesn't just end up there because everybody likes her. She buys that seat, basically. And that's what makes her a queen. There are no broke bums ending up queens like that, you know? So when it comes to going back to Psychacks, and this, you know, this situation, you're a high status guy and it's like you're looking to get married, it really should be done similar to how it used to be done. And that should be insurance for the crazy divorce laws. So it's like, if this high status corporate lawyer is going to get married, he needs to get married in some rich family, even if the woman's not making that money, but she comes from money and the father isn't a bum and can be like, you know what, you're my son-in-law, I need to, you know, put something down on that marriage. And that's what they used to have to do. Meat Man, it's good to see you, bro. Meat Man, we got Meat Man in from the Twitch. He's out there in Malaysia. Shout out to Meat Man. There are no broke bums ending up a queen. Gotta quote this part. Thank you, man. Yeah, so moving on.
Hour of their time. However, to make this talk more accessible, let's just...
Oh, yeah. I wanted to look at how she died. I'm sorry. Because he fulfilled his obligation to her. This wasn't a, I'm pissed off at you and I want to get divorced kind of deal. He was married to her for 24 years. How did she die? Catherine of Aragon death. Geez, somebody give me the answer. See if we could find it. Control F. Death. Jeez. Okay. Banishment and death. Okay, so let's see what happened to her. Upon returning to Dover from a meeting... Oh man. Okay. So I don't think he killed her, but this was the one I think that had to do with his split from the Catholic Church, because this is 1500s, Protestant Reformation's happening, and he was trying to divorce her, but he couldn't. So I don't think he actually, you know, brought the chop down on her. But this was what led to the split from England and the Catholic Church, so that he can get a lawful, I guess, divorce. Henry defended the lawfulness. Some sources speculate that Anne was already pregnant at the time. Henry did not want to risk a son being born illegitimate. Henry's marriage declared unlawful, even though Catherine had testified. Okay, so he got a divorce from her finally. Okay, yeah, so she lived after that. Until the end of her life, Catherine would refer to herself as Henry's only lawful wedded wife and England's only rightful queen. And her servants continued to address her as such. Henry refused her the right to any title but dowager princess. A dowager is someone who lives off of a dower. So sometimes I think after a dowry is given, a husband will still gift some amount to the wife in case she becomes a widow. And then that's what they're used as their income in the latter part of their life. Jeez, they got so much history on this. Just give me how she died already. Let's see, faith, appearance. Well, she basically was banished, and he didn't want to be married to her anymore, and then that was that. So let's get back to this.
Used the lawyer's rate as the standard of.
Hold up, well, it says there are in soap operas and Disney movies princesses. Yeah, exactly. You gotta. That don't come cheap. Hold up, just so I can catch up. Is Catherine a good person or not? I don't think she was bad. I mean, a lot of those marriages are done out of expedience back then. And she was coming in with some serious coin, so she did what she had to do. The real problem, I believe, was that she did not bear King Henry VIII a son, and he really wanted one. So he was trying his best to get a divorce from her so that he can get married to someone else to then get a son. I think that's what happened. But I don't remember exactly. Anne Boleyn miscarried a male child. Yeah, that's what it was. So he was married to her for 24 years, and he just couldn't make it happen in that regard. So that's kind of why that went sour. That was the only problem with that. But she came from a very powerful family that paid him a dowry. So it's like he's kind of beholden to them, to not kind of screw over that. But yeah, so. The rumors were born after the apparent discovery during her embalming that there was a black growth on her heart that might have been caused by poisoning. Modern medical experts are in agreement that her heart's discoloration was due not to poisoning but to cancer. All right, so she got really probably messed up after this divorce stuff happened, and she was probably so stressed out this unfortunate lady ended up with cancer, something which was not understood at the time. Catherine was buried in Peterborough Cathedral with the ceremony due to her position as a Dowager Princess of Wales, not a queen. Damn, that sucks. She got a demotion. She went from queen back to princess. Henry did not attend the funeral and forbade Mary to attend. Wow. That didn't end up well. Anyways. Okay, so moving on, yeah.
Measurement. So let's assume a man is making $1,300 an hour, like my friend. In the traditional dating pipeline, what would be expected of him? Well, first, he'd have to spend some time making something happen. Maybe he has to go out to a bar on a Saturday night and rizz up a girl. And this is hardly a sure thing, even at the local meat market, so he'll have to have the energy and the emotional resilience to deal with the rejection that inevitably stands between him and an actual prospect. Or he'll have to spend time creating a dating profile on an app that won't land him in the invisible 90% functionally ignored by all women, and swiping on hundreds of accounts in order to get some matches. Either way, once he succeeds in getting a number, he'll need to spend more time playing the text game in order to help the woman feel sufficiently safe and sufficiently attracted, which is not an easy balance to strike, to meet up for an actual date. Of course, he'll be expected to plan the date, which will almost certainly occur at some neutral location, as opposed to his house, several days or even weeks out. On the date, he'll be expected to cover all the expenses, but as we'll see, this is the most inexpensive part of dating for him. The meeting itself will probably last 2, maybe 3 hours, with potentially an hour of commuting to and from the location.
It's interesting because what he's pointing out is he's pointing out the sort of economic cost of how long it takes to, I guess, sort of just get a woman into bed or whatever, right? To get those needs met, and how many hours it takes for this guy who makes a lot of money. So it's the amount of money he's going to spend on, like, an escort or whatever. It might even be less than the amount of hours he spent trying to get this woman. But it's interesting because I think that kind of runs contrary to the like the fresh and fit style of a high value man, you know, because at the end of the book for Myron's book, you know, he kind of talks about that if women want a relationship, it needs to be completely on them. So the goal is to become so high value that women chase you, right? So now you become the top dog and women are chasing you. So when he says that a guy needs to do all this stuff and rizz him up and all that, I don't think he's wrong. Like, I think even if women are still chasing you, you still got to seduce them. But if you do become that high value guy, women make it easy for you, especially if they know you, who you are, you have some status. And then Myron says it basically becomes incumbent on the woman to carry the relationship and basically do a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? So on the one hand, yeah, I mean, it probably takes some time, but I would think for a guy who's high status or whatever, quote unquote, high value, it wouldn't take them that long to get them into bed because those women want them so bad that they're trying their best, right? So right here, it says all relationships are the responsibility. I don't even know if you can see that. Are the responsibility of the women. Men are conditioned to think we have to control everything. We have to account for every variable, influence every outcome, and are ultimately responsible for all results. But we're not, and we're not, especially when it comes to intersexual dynamics, because there's a whole other human being at the other end of the negotiating table, women. Women have their own thoughts, sentience, choices, agency, and responsibility, and while women will move mountains to avoid agency and responsibility, it still doesn't change the fact that as long as you do your best, as long as you become the best man you can become, you are no longer responsible for the outcome of this or any other relationship. The responsibility is now squarely laid at the brifault feet of women, and you no longer have to worry about it. When you stoically accept that women have an equal responsibility in all relationships, this not only liberates you from any further obligations you have to women, but also allows you to see modern day relationships for what they are, calculated risk. So it's just interesting because it's like if you get there to where that guy is, then they should all be chasing you. That is the promise of the high value man archetype, or is supposed to be. That's kind of the idea that's sold sometimes.
So he likely has to block off an entire evening, and busy, successful men may only get one evening off a week, if that.
Klaus says, let me see if I can put this up on there we go. The problem with the fresh and fit take is the women chasing you are probably gold diggers. Yeah. Well, yeah. See, that's really the thing. And that's the scary thing, right? Because you have the power in the relationship so long as you are not over leveraged. But if you're with this woman, and this is where Coach says, if you're with a woman longer than 6 weeks and you're hitting that bottom, she's your girl. Like he'll say, I think he says something like that. And it's like, so you're this guy and you're kind of stringing this woman along. She might pull the old, I forgot to take my birth control pill this morning, and then she's pregnant, and then the leverage now changes. You have over leveraged yourself. She is now in control. And that's the risk of that, right? And that's what we saw happen with Fresh with the Daisy allegations, whether they were true or not. And ostensibly they would go the escort route here because you don't have to worry about that stuff. But that can still happen to you legally with an escort. And if she knows who you are and your name and you're that high status, she can come after you for the child support and everything like that. So it's interesting. It's interesting to think about. And then if you're actually going to get married to one of these women, there's still no point in marrying them if you have all this money because the system's the way it is. So you have to kind of grill them and be like, you got to bring some money. And if you're bringing nothing, it ain't happening. Myliz Nevison. High value men become high value targets. Exactly. Good to see you in here. I'm not sure if I recognize your name, but I appreciate you being in here hanging out. So yeah, that's the other problem with that. You attract basically gold diggers, and that was kind of proven. Myron's sleep with 50 women thing is supposed to be, I know he doesn't mean that literally, but it's supposed to be like when you're with enough chicks and you've played the game enough. This is what we were talking about earlier about the businessman. You remember I said I've seen so many businessmen that are just surrounded by people that are trying to get business deals with them and screw them over because they know they got money. It's the same thing. Like, okay, you get all these chicks, they're all after you. You should be able to spot which ones are trying to come after you for your money. But I don't know. I don't even know if you could truly spot that or not, because it's just like minds change. And then suddenly they're like, well, I'm leaving. And that's that. It could be like that one soccer player. What's his name? Kaka. And his wife's like, he was too perfect. So again, they got to bring something if they want you to sign the contract.
And given all this time and effort and expense, there is, of course, absolutely no guarantee that the man will even be attracted to the woman in question, let alone succeed in securing a sexual encounter. And irrespective of the moral or ethics involved, this is frustrating. Because
that is definitely the experience. Like if you're anywhere in the normal distribution as far as like average to of the guy, once again, the promise of being high value, that's what's sold to us by the podcast and everything, is that they're going to be throwing it at you. Like you can become the Pookie and Chad that you've always wanted to be by supplementing it with status and this kind of 007 style gentleman, astronaut, cowboy in space type of thing, So it shouldn't really be so much a question of whether or not you're getting it. They should be hitting you up, and then you should have like 3 or 4 side pieces on the side if it doesn't work out.
Because since men attempt to exchange resources for sexual opportunity in the sexual marketplace, this is why he's there. So even if we ignore all the monetary expenses associated with the date itself, which are potentially not insignificant,
there's that concept of undercover feminist, and it's complicated. It has an episode called Undercover Feminist, and it's about women appearing to be trad in order to secure a marriage, right? And then if you look at Coach's marriage wheel, eventually after the investment phase is complete, then she becomes a feminist because she was an undercover feminist the whole time, and suddenly it becomes like the sex dries up. She's wants to focus on her career. And then it just leads to the divorce, basically, right? So that was an undercover feminist, And I have this thing where I think there's such a thing as an undercover red pillar. And red pill really did start off as a thing like Fight Club. It's like you were not supposed to talk about red pill, especially like when it was a subreddit. You're not supposed to go out there and start talking about red pill points to the women that you're, putting the game down on. You know what I'm saying? The bait and switch, exactly. So like there's this thing that's like an undercover red pillar. So a high value man, and when he says like you're supposed to be exchanging resources, when the Manosphere podcast talk about what makes a high value man, they're basically saying is appear like a really attractive traditional man of what a traditional masculine man would have, and then leverage those, basically advertise those, but then not really give it. You know what I mean? So it's like the woman thinks you're this like masculine guy that they would just dream about marrying, but then later on they found out you were an undercover red pillar the whole time. You know what I mean? And then that's when they get pissed. And then this is where Coach is right, and he says you should just pay on the front end, because when they find out you're an undercover red pillar, the all men pay, and then that's where the schemes start coming in. The spider starts to do its work, and then suddenly Daisy's pregnant and she ran off to New York and all these things.
A 3-hour date bookended by an hour of travel at $1,300 an hour is $5,200. This means this guy is paying $5,000 in terms of the cost to his time to go on a date with you. And this does not include any of the time and effort that went into securing the date.
The other thing that I think too is that I think a guy that's more likely to do this, or at least be happy with it, is someone who's already gone through like a dating phase in their life. Like because in my opinion, it's like there's a difference between like, yes, going to dinner and you got to do all this stuff and go to dinner and you got to rizz them up. But there is something, at least in my opinion, that's fun about that. Like it's fun to actually make a woman actually like you. You know what I mean? And there's a kind of like ego boost there, that you get when you kind of seal the deal. You know what I mean? Like you made it happen. And that's tight. But like if you're going to pay for it or whatever, I kind of have this metaphor where it's like you're just using a woman's body to pleasure yourself. But it's not like making love or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like you're just using it. It's just as almost like a giant dildo, basic, or whatever you want to call that for guys. Like a giant blow up doll in a way. But if you're already past that phase in your life, like if you're Coach and you got 2 kids and you got divorced already, or you've already had a bunch of girlfriends and it's kind of not that exciting to you anymore, I guess, then I can see this being an option because you're just so busy and like you don't care about it. But I do want to point out that there's supposed to be a difference between like that and meeting the chick and getting her to actually like you and all this stuff. I think there's a little bit there that makes it fun or more like interesting.
This may come as a shock, but most women do not just show up into a man's life with an intention to make his life easier. For most men, it's a lot of fucking work to get sex and relationships from women. You hear a lot about the emotional labor that women perform for men.
It's definitely a lot of work. One thing I do want to say, and this has been my experience, is that it's a lot of work in the beginning, but then after like the first few times of like with the same chick, I feel like the amount of effort can go down, and you can still kind of kick that can down the road for a bit longer. It probably will end up in a kind of a loss of attraction or whatever, but I feel like in the beginning is where like you're trying your hardest, and then it just kind of becomes this like normal flow, so I don't know.
But it's absolutely true that
there we go.
Men perform a great deal of emotional labor for women. It's just that the man's labor typically has to do with getting laid and securing and maintaining the relationship. To do this, men often have to be charming or funny or cool. They have to stimulate.
See, and like that's in the beginning, definitely, because you're trying to, and once you get in there, so to speak, they have now kind of invested in you because you damn, rang the bell on them already. And once you do that a couple times or a few times, then it's like, okay, you can kind of, not trip about it too much. And then you guys are in a relationship. And like, you are trying to be charming in the beginning and all this stuff. But then if you guys are going, and you're an undercover red pillar, and she's trying her best to get you to commit more and get married to her, then she has to start being charming and doing all these things. Man, I will always remember this. I got this buddy who lives in Miami, and this guy is pretty rich. He's a young guy. He even made it to 30 under 30 or whatever the heck they call that on the Forbes. And he had a big company. He ended up selling it, but I went there with my other buddy who's really his friend, and I was just to tag along, and I got to just witness the roller coaster ride. But I was staying at this guy's place, and it was a house he had just built there, right outside of Miami. And I remember I was staying there for about a week. And I remember he was not married at the time. He's married now to this woman. But I remember I had to do my laundry because we'd been out everywhere, man. We were out on the Everglades. There was alligators. I got footage of this. We were going fishing. We were doing all kinds of stuff. I went to the Florida Keys. Oh, man, it was great. The Caribbean food was amazing. I had Jamaican food. Man, Miami was an amazing time, by the way. If you guys ever get a chance, it's really cool. But anyways, I did my laundry, and I put my laundry into the washing machine before I left. And when I remember putting it, I can't remember if I put it in the dryer or what it was before we left. And when I got back, I saw all of my clothes, including my underwear, had been folded and neatly stacked. And I was like, what the hell? And it really weirded me out because it felt like this woman that was his like girlfriend at the time was just doing extra. You know what I'm saying? Like she was presenting in a way, you know what I mean? She was doing what the guys do at the front end. Like this is her trying to seal the deal for the marriage. And the guy's got to do it at the beginning, but then once the woman is in that situation, she's now invested. You've now been hitting those for a while, and she's just like, okay, I want this guy to marry me. She has to start presenting as a kind of something that would make a good wife, like will fit the role of a wife, which is like a traditional. And that's where you kind of get your undercover feminist on that end. So undercover red pillar meets undercover feminist, and they're trying to parlay, but it always just weirded me out because it didn't feel genuine. It just, I don't know about that.
Your emotions and arouse your attraction. They have to listen to you talk about your day and care about the woman inside your body. And they have to do all this without giving the slightest impression that this is in any way work for them, or that they could possibly want to do literally anything else with their time and attention. Because if you get the impression that they're just doing this because it works and not because they authentically want to do it, you won't fuck them. This is not easy to do. Even the most successful Casanovas strike out more often than they get on base. Women are extremely complex, and most men do not even begin to approach an understanding of how you operate. In any case, dating you requires a lot of time, energy, money, and emotional resilience. And if you're working 80 hours a week, you just might not have the bandwidth for that. Dating just feels like another job, but a job that you pay to work. I understand that women have their own frustrations with the dating process.
You know, and I get what he's saying. The other part of me can't help but think it's just like, you know, you're a high-powered, you know, whatever, businessman, lawyer, and guys that are in a position like that where there's high stakes and there's high money, those guys are, I don't know, like people I've seen in my life are smooth. They know how to pound out deals. They know how to negotiate. They're constantly talking. They're constantly selling. They're constantly deal making. They're constantly doing that. So when it comes to women, it's like, to me, that would be like such a like easy thing after you're done doing all that, to where like it really should not feel like effort, because you're just so used to just talking and dealing with women, just because you got all these bigger deals that are going on all the time. So it's like, whatever, I'm swiping, you know, throw some lines out there, throw some lines, go on a date, this and that. It kind of becomes second nature almost. So I get why it would suck, but I do think a lot of these guys probably just do it for the easy access and the variety. And like, yeah, I get it. I still think most of those guys get laid anyways. I think it's more just about being discreet, and just so that they don't want to have to deal with the back end of that of, oh, she wants a relationship now. She wants a relationship. And then when you say no, she starts to lose her mind and do all this shit. So I think that's probably like 90% of the reason why they do it, and not even so much the effort at the beginning. Because I just think most of those guys that are in that position don't have a problem of charming them, but they do want the woman to know, like, hey, this is what this is. Here's some money. Don't bother me about marrying you. And that's probably like the biggest benefit.
But that's not why we're here today. We're looking at dating from the perspective of successful men in these episodes. We'll get back to you later. So that's the end of...
We'll watch another one. Let's see what the comments say, though. I did like this episode. You know, it does kind of bring up a question of whether or not this stuff will ever get legalized. I guess it kind of is de facto. I mean, it's not legal at all. So, you know, watch your butts, gentlemen. But so many of these people are doing this stuff now, or whatever. You know what I mean? And I don't know if there's a push to make it formally legal, but I think they should just make it formally legal at this point. I don't know if there are any of the international folks are in here. I know Klaus is from Germany. I think it's legal in Germany. I'm not sure, but I wonder what they'd say about it. It probably still is not helping dating that much. I think if anything, it helps the guys who are not getting any at the very least. And it might make it easier for rich guys. Like, you remember that guy, what was his name? Trevor Bauer. He was that baseball player. And he got some easy off of IG. And this woman was trying to screw him the whole time. And she lied about him basically hurting her. But really, they were just doing like BDSM stuff. And then he finally cleared his name. But it wasn't until after the Dodgers or whoever basically let him go. And he had to go to Japan. And he went through all this bullshit. You know what I mean? And like, if it was legal, he probably could have just got some legal, and then, you know, we would have never heard about it, and everything would have been fine. You know, tradcons don't like that though. Let's see what the comments say. I don't pay them for sex, I pay them to leave. Yes, basically. Charlie Carlito Sheen. Charlie Sheen, man. Charlie Sheen. 2 reasons: busy men don't have the time to date. Rich men are worried about getting trapped by gold diggers. Yeah, and this is still a risk. Like, even if you're at the JUCO or not, this is still a risk. Because, I mean, again, and I've heard about this happening at the child support agency. You know, I've talked to child support officers that have dealt with actual escorts. I think I even worked one. I remember I was working this case, and the guy was an attorney, and he was in his 50s, and he wasn't there. I was talking to the woman, and the woman was this really attractive, in her early 20s, Thai woman that had, you know, and she came here and she got, you know, pregnant or whatever. And then she was at the child support agency, and dude, we were going to go after that guy. You know what I mean? So I think they might've had some type of arrangement going on, and she decided to give him the old fish fry. And then that was that, you know? So she got him. He was a big fish. Lopol, thoughts on the Trump shooting? Oh man. Yeah. I was just talking about that earlier. When I started the stream, but yeah, I was looking at that, man. I did pull out the tinfoil hat. You know, I don't know who this is. I don't know if it's CIA. I don't know if it's Biden's guys or, you know, whoever it is. You know, Biden had those terrible debates basically. And he refused to step down. It's quite possible that, like, whoever the hell, I'm getting real conspiratorial here, by the way. I mean, they released an image of who they think is the alleged would-be assassin that failed, and it was a quote-unquote like transgender woman. Apparently, we don't know this yet. This could be misinformation. So maybe they had an axe to grind. I don't know why. That seems a little too convenient. There might be bigger powers here. People are questioning Secret Service and how they could have missed this. If you look at the venue, it doesn't really make sense why they didn't canvass that area to make sure nobody was on that building with the clear line of sight sniper rifle shot at him. But he is incredibly lucky. Like, I don't think it was just like them trying to miss. I don't think it was staged like that. I think that person was trying to get him. It just grazed him because he turned his head. An actual person in the audience passed away. May God rest that individual's soul. I think somebody else was hit. At this point, I think support for Trump is going to be at an all-time high. I would be surprised if he didn't win. So I don't know what they're going to try to do next. I mean, I think as far as people actually voting, I don't think I know probably people that are on the far progressive left still won't vote for him. But I think a lot of the middle of the roaders are going to be like, you know what? And I'm not even planning to vote. You know what I mean? But even I was like, damn, I might actually get off the couch, but I'm still not going to vote. But, it kind of affects, I think, the American psyche in a sort of way. So I don't know. And Biden just got done calling Zelensky Putin at a some type of whatever the heck he was at. So he ain't there all the way. Nobody wants Mama Kamala to be the front runner. And, I hope they can actually get to the bottom of it. But this is going to be the subject of conspiracies for a while. So hopefully they don't come after him again. Klaus says, yes, it is. And it is taxed like a normal job. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it is. But they're currently trying to make it illegal again. Any reason why they're trying to make it illegal? Like what would be their reason for that? Like, I do wonder why. Because is it just like a far-right religious party that's coming into power and they want to because they want to make it more godly? Or is there like some actual like reason that maybe the secularists want it to be outlawed again? That would be interesting. I should take off this. Do you think cruise control to president now? Yeah, he's got listen, he's more popular now after this. He's got a much higher chance of winning now for sure. What? Oh, crap. Man, I got all this stuff in the way. What if RFK Jr. comes from Democrats? I don't think so. I mean, that's assuming Biden steps down and we get another front runner. I don't think it would be RFK. I mean, I'm not sure who it would be, but I don't know if it would be RFK that suddenly takes the ticket. That would probably have a better chance at this point. It's going to be a crazy few months. It's going to be a crazy few months, honestly. They say it's exploiting women. Okay, so it's like a sex trafficking kind of reason. Okay, so that's like a more secular reason then. Unless it's like Tradcon's using a secular reason. It's an interesting thing. That's an interesting thing. Oh, one sec. I got this big old giant heart in the way. Oh, crap. You know what? I'll just do this. Chat. Oh, if war starts, then no elections. I mean... You mean like if there was a civil war? I don't know if that... Man, actually, I shouldn't even speak too soon. I think if they got him today, there would have been some serious problems. But let's just say he makes it to the election and nothing bad like that happens, and there's not another attempt, then hopefully it would avoid that. Right now, I think if, there could be other groups out there that have designs on the U.S., and they're watching this, and this is creating chaos. This is creating more tension. You never know what can happen. There could be, God forbid, knock on wood, there could be some type of attack, you know what I mean, just to add to the craziness and the chaos and make Americans feel even more unsettled as we get more into election season. There could be another attempt. I think it's kind of early to talk about that, like as far as the Civil War goes. That would be an absolute disaster. But I could see what you're saying if it's like a kind of a kind of false flag thing that starts a civil war so that Biden doesn't have to leave office. Now that's a real conspiracy theory right there. That's a real conspiracy theory. I should put this back on. Which is funny, as the reason to make it legal was to stop exploiting women by sex trafficking. That's interesting to think about. Yeah, that's the whole point, right? Yeah, the state gets involved, so the state becomes the pimp, basically, and they're supposed to do it in a way that's regulated, that keeps the women safe. And it was supposed to stop it from underground. So if they make it illegal again, it's probably just going to go underground again. That's a real tough conundrum right there. Man, too bad Robert Spencer's not in here today. I wanted to show him I got this book, Siddhartha, which was the other Herman Hesse book. But yeah, so let's just read the comments a bit, and then maybe we'll do there's a second video. We'll choose which one. Okay. F that, I'll be in Egypt during election. Man, that's awesome. I'm actually going to Turkey in October, so I'm looking forward to that. But the election's in November, I think, so I'll be back before that. That's smart, though, man. That's smart. Just avoid all the hubbub. You know it's going to be getting crazy. So, one more reason for an attractive, highly successful man to use escorts is that it's hard to find the woman he'd want to have a long-term relationship with. He'd rather pay the woman to leave than deal with the breakup. If it flies, flirts, or floats, rent, don't buy. Escorts versus dating, upfront pricing with no hidden fees. An escort will never be in a position to take half of everything you own. Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, and a girlfriend can't really either, but it's the fact about her feeling cheated and then wanting to actually come after you. You know what I mean? Lowpole says, get the executive health checkup in Turkey for like $500 or something, which will cost thousands in the U.S. They do like all sorts of tests. I don't know how conscious you are about health, and if you'd like to find more. I watched this video on social media, and it was this woman that traveled from the U.S. to Turkey, and she was documenting her experience of just going through the hospital and how like state of the art it was. I know a lot of people who've gone there to get hair transplants. I know a guy who's going there. He's missing a few teeth, and he's gonna go there and get his teeth fixed, and that's like a real what do you call that? Medical tourism, I think. Will says Turkey is the model of a very well-run Muslim country. Very strong military, not super conservative, clean streets, beautiful country. Well, I'm excited for that. I'm definitely excited to see it. I've been buying a bunch of Turkish sucuk, and I've heard pretty good things, I do want to see Egypt, and I have heard Egypt is cooler than Turkey. Like, I heard like actually going somewhere and like getting into it, like Egypt is actually more fun. I know it could probably be maybe a little bit tougher trip, but I think Turkey might be a little more hoity-toity from what I heard. So I'll be flying into Istanbul, and it should be pretty cool. So that's gonna be in October. Lopol says, I'm almost done my hair too. Might have to go soon. I've seen a lot of people do it. I don't know if it's worth it or not, or like, I don't know if there's like what the situation is, if it's like permanent or how that works and stuff. But, if you want to, then it might be good. But definitely research it for sure. The only thing about Egypt I heard were scammers, but never been only heard. Yeah, man, I wish I had it in like that, with Egypt, and that I spoke like Egyptian Arabic and I was just one of the boys out there, man. I just want to be one of the guys with my Egyptian brothers, you know what I'm saying? And just go out there and go out on the Nile and go on a barge and just chill. That'd be so cool. It'd be like the dream, man. My dream is to freaking travel a bunch of places someday. Got the skin color check, yeah. This is why prostitution escorting is quote-unquote illegal. Average women lose their bargaining power. Yeah, so... Anyways, that's that one. There's a couple other episodes here that look pretty good. I kind of want to see his newest one, Choosing Between Two Women. That seems pretty good. I wonder if that's the Madonna whore complex right there. You get what you pay for. The higher the prices, the better the service. That could also be good. The $50,000 beer. That sounds like overpaying for something. So I'm going to say that's about why very attractive women aren't on dating apps. These two, okay, this one's pretty short. Let's watch the longer one. I want to know why attractive women aren't on dating apps anymore. So we'll see what's going on here. In Egypt, everyone will try to scam you, but like they're scamming you out of $5. Man, dude, that reminds me of Pakistan, bro. When I went to Pakistan the second time, I mean, not that people weren't trying to scam me the first time, but I remember when I got there, and I was already just so tired from this long-ass flight. You're in transit for like 24 hours, and right there, this was before the airport moved from Rawalpindi to Islamabad, so it was still in Pindi. And as soon as I got there, man, one of the airport guys was trying to finesse me, man, already. He just comes up to me and he's just like, oh, like, which one's your bag? Like, he's trying to help me. And then he grabs my bag, and I'm like, whatever. I had nothing important in there. I already knew he was trying to run some game, And then basically his scam to try to get money was like, let me walk you past the metal detector so you don't have to get your baggage scanned. Because if you're bringing things into the country, especially like electronics or stuff, they might tax you on certain things, especially cell phones. So he walks me through it like we're homies. And then at the end of it, he's just like, oh, he's trying to get some money out of me. And I'm just like, sorry, man, I don't got any rupees. He's like, US dollars works too. And I was like, nah. You know what I mean? And then he didn't get nothing. And then that was that. He was trying to like hold on to my bag and not give it back to me. And I didn't know if this guy, my mistake was I didn't know if this guy was real like security or if this guy was anybody important. But I really should have been more aggressive. But just like, give me my damn bag and get the hell away from me, like from the beginning. So that was my lesson as a younger guy in my 20s going to Pakistan. So I'm sure Egypt is probably similar in a way, but again, I don't want to let that stop me from going. Pulls out an ATM machine next. All right, the $50,000 beer. Why very attractive women are on dating apps. Let me hit the like button. All right, let's go.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psychacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is the $50,000 beer. This is part 2 in my 3-part series on why successful men use escorts. So be sure to check out part 1 before proceeding. In the first episode...
Oh, no way. This is part 2. This is about the escorts again. Wow, I did not know that. Okay, well, maybe this has to do more from the women's side. I don't know. We'll watch it. It's on target. Let's just do that.
I discuss how traditional dating becomes prohibitively expensive as a function of a man's success. However, that discussion was still from an ideal perspective. All the expenses associated with dating are exacerbated when the woman in question wants to take it slow. Women, the success of this dating strategy is inversely proportional to your age.
I hope everything's working okay with the stream. Sorry, my restream's being buggy again. I just got to restart it. Okay, looks like it's being okay. Sorry. This thing is just so weird. Ever since I was trying to do the multi-stream, it's always giving me little issues, but whatever.
The younger you are, the slower you can take it. However, this is not a strategy that works for older women. I spoke with a woman in her early 50s recently who had 2 kids by 2 previous marriages and who
oh man, okay, yeah, so she got 2 baby daddies.
Told me that she wasn't willing to have sex before marriage.
Oh my gosh.
Any man she is currently dating. You can't make this up.
Yeah, she's looking for like she's looking for like king simp. You know what I mean? Bro, but they exist. Oh my God, this reminds me of something I literally saw. I was at my buddy's house who lives by the river. We were all chilling. We were going to go on the boat. And this one guy came over. I don't know. He was like a buddy of a buddy or something. This guy came over and brought his soon-to-be wife or wife. It was like this like Middle Eastern dude. And he had been kind of recently sort of X'd out of his family, basically, because I kind of heard the backstory. And he had a wife. And this woman already had like 2 kids, I think, from 2 different men. And she was pregnant currently with this guy's kid. And this guy, he was in his late 20s. This woman was in her 30s. And he's now got this woman pregnant who has 2 other kids. And he's going to be getting married to her or whatever. And I was like, damn. And his family was not about it. So he was kind of going through it. And I heard the whole story. I seen it all in front of my face. And yes, so some of these women out here, I mean, they'll find somebody, I guess.
As may be unsurprising, she has been single for quite some time. I spoke with another woman recently, she was 41, who was looking to get married and start a family. She told me that she blamed her inability to have secured this relationship already on the fact that in the past, she jumped into bed with men too quickly. I assured her this was not the problem. Women should be very sexually generous with the men they're hoping to catch. The problem was not what she was doing. The problem was who she was doing it with. As I've said before, women do the right things with the wrong men. But rather than examine her tendency of targeting the wrong men, she decided to shoot herself in the foot by making a relationship with her even more expensive than it otherwise would have been by making men wait longer for sex. Now she wouldn't sleep with a man until at least the third date. What women need to understand is that expecting time and attention and emotion and provision without providing sex in return is an extremely one-sided and expensive proposition in the dating game. It's the gendered equivalent of a man inviting you over for sex and then kicking you out when he's finished.
Man, that woman really is living in a real Disney fantasy type situation of like looking for a Prince Charming. And, you know, someone else, some guy living in the same Disney conditioning might take that. But that's kind of wild to think about. Just two kids from two different baby daddies and, you know, I can almost, to be charitable to her, I can almost, I guess, see, because she's probably thinking, okay, well, maybe, because now she's probably like, if I did things more traditional, I wouldn't have ended up in this situation. And every time I have sex with these guys, they never do right by me. God knows, you know, maybe there's a bunch of other stuff. And now she's like, well, then maybe the part of that equation is if I don't give them sex, then it'll be different. And it probably goes down to her just kind of almost unconsciously believing that all she has to leverage in any relationship is sex. Because, like, instead of changing probably a bunch of other things, she's like, well, I'm going to wait for sex after marriage now. That is wild to think about.
It's one side getting what it wants at the expense of the other. More structured women, like these two, have rules about how the dating process needs to proceed before they participate in the sexual dimension of the relationship. In most cases, these women are not worth dating. They're just too expensive. And if they're too expensive for the average guy, they are absolutely exorbitant for the successful one.
Honestly, like, the only way I can see that woman's situation, like, okay, she has two kids and you got a guy that also has two kids and maybe he has like majority custody of those two kids, then like his two kids and her two kids, they can make a family of four. I've seen that once and I've seen that work. I mean, I would venture to say, you know, I've seen people come together in that situation. If I was that woman, I mean, I think she should be looking for guys that are in that situation where like a guy's like a single dad and he has these two kids and then maybe they can pool together their resources and then give these four wonderful kids, you know, a better future in that way. But sex before or after, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right thing to look at, but Mr. Pitt says, at the end of the day, sex really is their primary agency. Yeah, I mean that's what most of them are using as their bargaining power at this point. Which kind of takes us back to that conversation of the dowry, right? Like, if you're a woman and depending on where you are on the ladder, having a dowry also to offer for a marriage kind of gets you past that situation of not having to rely completely on yourself, because there's, you know, on your body, I guess. So there's more to give there.
Think about it. If a woman won't sleep with a man until the third date as a rule, then at $5,200 a date, that amounts to $15,600 for a sexual encounter. If the encounter actually occurs. After all, there's no guarantee that the woman won't change her mind or feel there isn't sufficient chemistry at any point in the process. And I would like women to consider that 15 grand is an inordinate amount of money to spend to get to know you. Like, would you give up?
And he's talking about opportunity cost. You know what I mean? If you're a very, very successful guy and you work a lot, every hour of your time's worth this much. I don't know if I look at it exactly like that. Like, there's the cost of the date, the actual tangible stuff of the date. Then there's the opportunity cost of what you could be doing. But sex is a need. So at a certain point, the more you're deprived of this need, if you're in a desert and you need water, the value of water suddenly goes up. And even though you're a jewelry store seller guy back in the town somewhere, you could be selling jewelry, but the fact is that you're in a desert and you need water. So the value of your time and what you got to give starts to become different and affected based off of the circumstance or the situation.
$15,000 to go on 3 dates with a man, especially if the dates didn't actually involve the thing you might most be looking for? I don't think you would. And that's why these successful men aren't going to date structured women, or are very quickly going to be looking for the door if these women try to make them jump through hoops. They're not toxic players as much as they are not looking to throw 5 figures of money away on an unsatisfying interaction. Their decision has less to do with their personalities and more to do with the economic realities under which they are operating.
It's so crazy because in one sense, I want to think, spinning plates and using game to get the chicks is supposed to be more high risk or whatever because you could step on a landmine. Then I guess the escorts are supposed to be safer. But then there's Walter, he was just doing everything wrong with an escort though. Like it was beyond just paying her. He was trying to game an escort, which is I guess probably more accurate to the situation. Like he was trying to kind of, they were both trying to con each other, like because he was bringing her to meet mom and all this stuff. So that's way past the bounds of an escort client relationship, I guess. Now that I think about it, so maybe his case isn't the best to use as an example. The escort one is supposed to be a lot less high risk than if you're spinning 10 plates and one of them happens to break and causes you huge problems,
Women, if you make men wait, you will end up with the men with time on their hands. Think about it. What kind of man is going to wait around to see if a given woman thinks he's good enough to sleep with? I'll help you out. It ain't gonna be the attractive men with lots of options who already know their worth. If you are fortunate enough to find yourself on a date with one of these individuals, and you are receiving the undivided attention of a high-value man who is showing you sexual interest, it is not the time to play hard to get. You have been given an opportunity that may never come again. You need to act fast, and you need to give them the richest, creamiest milk you possibly can.
It's funny. It almost, I get what he's saying. I agree with it. This is a put your best foot forward type of thing. And basically, he's saying hook them. But this is not unlike a love bombing situation, right? You got a gold digger, and she's like, this is the one. I'm going to love bomb the hell out of him by loading him with sex. I'm going to front end this with a bunch of sex and just be super into him and just really make him addicted to me to get all my text messages because I keep complimenting him. And when he sends me a picture of him, he's just like, oh my God, you're so beautiful and all these things. And you're such a handsome man. And then just flooding him. That sounds suspiciously like love bombing. You know what I mean? So it's like this woman, and it can only come from a narcissist kind of woman. Like this woman already believes that she deserves this guy because she's better than everybody. So of course this would be the strategy of love bombing. Mr. Pitt says Fresh was selling the dream using the mouthpiece. Oh yeah, exactly. But he wasn't even doing that because he was spending the money on the jewelry. It was like I think he was with her for like 3 days, and he bought like a $15,000 piece of. They went halvesies on a Van Cleef bracelet, I think it was called. That was like $30K. And she put 15 and he put 15. So that was like $5K a day, which is probably not unlike some of the prices I think he was mentioning in the last video. And then you think you can't travel. I don't think you can. You used to be able to travel with like just under 10 grand. And I think they changed that amount of money that you can fly with, at least into the country versus out of the country. I don't know. So for her, it's like she's coming to the US. She's doing her escort thing. If she wants to leave to go deposit the money she's made, it's better to buy it in the form of a bracelet, fly with the bracelet on, I guess. Like, that's just my bracelet. Like, this isn't anything. I've always had this. And then get home and put it in a safety deposit box or sell it over there or something like that. Miles Neverson says, oh, that's what Patrice O'Neal unveiled when Socratically asked women how you would keep their man if they had no vagina. That's a good question. Then they got to start asking questions. I also think if you're a single guy, like, listen, if let's say you take the time, you become the high value man, you know, you read the book, you know what I'm saying? You become the high value man. It takes time. And now you're like mid 30s and you're that guy, you're the corporate lawyer guy, whatever. I mean, I don't really think a woman can sell herself to you based off of cooking for you or doing your laundry. And I'm not even saying that because like, oh, you can afford it now. But it's like, what were you doing from 18, maybe even before 18, but what were you doing from 18 to 35 while you're becoming a corporate lawyer that makes all this money and is a partner or whatever? You were doing your own damn laundry. You were cooking your own food. You were getting it figured out. Like, you're cleaning your own house. So if you're 35 and you've been doing this from 18 to 35, like, it's not a big sell to me. I mean, I make breakfast every day. I make dinner for myself every day. I clean all my stuff and do my own laundry. So it's like, if a woman comes and like that's what she's offering me to sign the contract, it's not that big of a sell. So yeah, if you take the vagina away, what's left after that?
Let's look at this from another angle, shall we? Why aren't there female 9s and 10s on dating apps? I hear men complain all the time about the apparent attractiveness of the women they encounter on apps.
But this is an interesting question because there's still some hot chicks on dating apps. I do kind of think sometimes, and I'm not sure, but it does feel like there's been a kind of exodus of like super attractive women off of it. And I don't know if it's because they're monetizing themselves or they just got no trouble meeting guys in real life or something. That's going to be the mouthpiece guys right there. Shout out to Mr. Pitt. Or whatever, but I don't know, but that's interesting. Let's see what he has to say about that.
But my brothers in Christ, of course, you're not going to find super beautiful women on dating apps. These women, like the super successful men, don't date conventionally. And they don't date conventionally for the exact same reason. It's far too expensive.
Marriage is I was watching a Legion of Men episode. I like Legion of Men. He's one of my favorite content creators. But he was reacting to some video about marriage, and he was just talking about how in the future, like, marriage will be like a luxury of the rich.
Imagine you're a world-class beauty. You're getting DM'd hundreds or thousands of times a day.
See, this is what it's like being a rich businessman. Everybody's always coming to you with their idea and about how, like, you know, oh, this great business idea and then all this and why you should listen to them. And like, you know, if you just put 50 grand into this deal, you can get like this many % of it. Everybody's just got a damn thing to sell you.
Saudi prince is inviting you out to a 7-star resort in Dubai. An NFL player wants to give you
Damn, I didn't even know it went to 7 stars. I thought 5 stars was the max.
Tickets to his next game in a private box on the 50-yard line. Some rising movie star wants you to join him on location in Tahiti. What are the chances, in the midst of all these options and invitations, that you're going to spend Saturday night having a beer in a local dive bar with a random nobody?
Man, I know that, Mr. Pitt, I know there's guys out there right now that are like the game guys. They're like, I can make it happen. I can make it happen. I can get that 10-10 and spit some game at the grocery store. Well, I don't even know if 10-10s go to the damn grocery store, but, you know, there's got to be somebody out there, and I want to believe in them.
The odds that you would do that are absolutely non-existent. And they're non-existent not because you're just a shallow and materialistic gold digger, but because that beer just became extraordinarily expensive. From the nobody's perspective, the beer only costs $10. But from your perspective, the world-class beauty, it costs an all-expense paid vacation to the Burj Dubai. To her, that is a $50,000 beer. And guess
that'll always be simping. I think Jonathan, It's Complicated, he had a show called Alpha Simps. And I was watching Coach. Coach last week, I think, did an episode on our Chad Simps or something like that. It was kind of interesting, but it just kind of reminds me of that, like spending that much money. Even if you're that rich, still, you know, that's alpha simping.
Guess what? No fucking beer is worth $50,000. When you are a world-class beauty, it's too expensive to date conventionally. The same is true when you are a very successful man. But here's the difference. A decently attractive man could never, ever engage a world-class beauty. Dudes, just try DMing a smoke show with 2 million Instagram followers. You will never, ever get a response beyond her auto reply.
Man, it's like I want to agree with them, but at the same time, I do want to believe that's not fully true. You know what I mean? The Chad meme exists for a reason. You know what I mean? Because some of those guys, if they do got the looks or whatever, can still attract them or pull it off. That's the pool boy guy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, if he can't do it on IG, that's one thing. But I don't know. You know, I don't know if it's exactly like this. It's not just about having to climb the ladder. I mean, at a certain point, maybe she won't take him seriously for certain things, but they can still attract the women.
However, a decently attractive woman could engage a very successful man.
Man, I wish like Coach or someone would do like an episode on weird mismatched couples. You know, like sometimes even in your real life, like you'll see like a really hot chick with like a guy that you just wouldn't expect. Like that's like, that's okay, that's the boyfriend. Or even the other way around. Like I remember this buddy from high school I had. He was like on the football team. This guy, like he was, man, girls like this guy. You know, he's a handsome guy. And I remember when he got married. You know, it was I was a little surprised. I was just a little surprised. You know, everything's working out though, so good. Maybe I'm sure he did the right thing. And then the other day when I went on the river, there was this guy, and he had this chick. This chick was like 6 feet tall, and this guy was he was probably like 5'6". I swear to God. But he was kind of like, he was a little gangsta, little type, but he was a cool dude. He was a good guy. But that was another odd mismatch. I wish someone would go through like celebrity couples or just influencer couples that look like odd mismatch and just break them down. I think it'd be like a good episode.
And just slide into his DMs and make herself available. This doesn't always work, obviously, but it absolutely has a non-zero chance of succeeding. If you find yourself on a date with one of these men, do not waste the opportunity.
Pete Davidson is an excellent example. Yeah, it really was like that. It's like that same feeling you get. It's like, like how, that's interesting. Like people are just like, how's this guy doing it? You know, they asked that. Like you asked that question, I asked that question, and it would be interesting to see like a red pill manosphere guy look at some of those cases and break it down. Pete Davidson would be a good one.
It's kind of like finding yourself alone in an elevator with Elon Musk. You have 30 seconds to cultivate interest, or you probably blew it forever. Fortune favors the prepared. Wait for your moment and pounce when it appears. So let's recap. The more successful a man is, the more expensive traditional dating becomes. These men have to spend time and energy finding women, cultivating interest, planning dates, covering expenses, stimulating arousal, and, most significant of all, waiting. What's more, all this occurs without any reasonable guarantee of a sexual encounter or even mutual interest. Most dates are first dates. This means that, all other things being equal, the most likely outcome is the man having paid a sizable amount of money to feel frustrated and disappointed at the end of the night. In the context of limited free time and emotional bandwidth, these probabilities become even more unattractive. Most likely, he will eventually come to the decision that he would rather use that time and energy earning more money, or improving his fitness, or playing video games, or literally any other activity that reasonably promises a greater return on his investment of time.
I think a lot of guys that do that at that point I still think it's guys that are like kind of past they're just kind of past that phase in their life where like maybe they got married or they got divorced. They've been maybe in a few long-term relationships that were really serious, and it was just more BS than it was worth, but they're just tired of it now. So, older rich guys I can see kind of being on that thing. Like that's where I kind of see Coach, like I like, because Coach talks a lot about legacy, and those are interesting episodes. I do see him more so as someone that he's had marriage, he's divorced, he went through all the BS, he has 2 kids, he doesn't care about that, even if he did, it's just kind of done. So I think it's easier for guys like that. When I talk to divorced guys that are going through it, I got another buddy, he's got he's got 3 kids. They're going through it, but his kids are almost grown up. And I was just trying to explain to him, like, man, it's going to be so cool. Like, once you get past the divorce and everything, like, once you get like past this and the kids are grown up, like, you're going to be straight chilling. You got the kids, everything's done already. Just going to be out here having a good time. Like, you can't even, he should be looking forward to that.
Like the beautiful woman, he will conclude that no beer is worth $50,000. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. You can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this episode. I'm proud to announce that my book, The Value of Others, is now available for pre-sale on Amazon. It'll be released in just a few days. So take action now to get your hands on it as soon as possible. I'm also writing original content for my free newsletter every week. So if you'd like to sign up, you can do so on my website.
And you can inquire.
Finally, please fill out an inquiry form on my website if you're interested in booking a paid consultation. The links to everything I just discussed is in the description below, so please check them out. All right, let's get back to it. Provided we can move past our reactive judgment, we're now well positioned to understand why successful men use escorts. Not only is hiring escorts less expensive than dating traditionally, but doing so solves nearly every problem that a successful man encounters in the modern dating pool.
And you know, and this is the problem with the, because the first thing I think of is just like some of those nightmare stories of like the JUCO or like the sugar baby. You know, there's like those crazy stories where like her and like her actual boyfriend like take out like the rich doctor guy because she's mad at him or he stopped wanting to pay her or something like that. And it's more dangerous since it's not actually legal. So a lot of men and women are operating in the gray area of like, okay, yeah, we're doing this in an underground sort of way. So that, I think that opens you up for more complex stuff. If it was legal, it might be a little bit easier, but
regardless of who you are, man or woman, young or old, gay or straight, an option that solves more of your problems for fewer resources will always be preferable to an option that solves fewer of your problems for more. Apparently, the average rate for an hour of sex with a female sex worker in the United States is $250. Citation.
Damn, that sounds pretty cheap, actually. I thought it'd be more. I thought it'd probably be like, I don't know. That sounds kind of cheap. Miles Nevison says, ego has to be factored in. Some tens probably consider online dating apps beneath them. Yeah, that's true. Like they're just supposed to be like in this club of celebrities. And what the hell is that one celebrity app that they use? I can't remember what it's called, Rust or something. It's like how top legendary award-winning actors will refuse to do auditions. I see. Yeah, damn. What a strange way to exist. Man. You know, I have one of my cars that I really like is a Volkswagen that I drive. This is my everyday car, and it was parked outside of my house, and the car recently ran into it, and it's messed up right now, and I'm dealing with the insurance and all that. And in the meantime, I'm driving my other car, which I usually keep in the garage, and it's a little bit nicer, and I value it more because I like it more. And I really miss my Volkswagen because my Volkswagen has like little scratches on the side. I don't really care too much if something goes wrong with it. And I'm able to just drive so much more comfortably and not trip and park it wherever I want. If I go to a grocery store and the parking spots look a little too skinny, it's not that big of a deal. Or if shopping carts look like they're kind of going all over the place, like I can live with it if it hit it. And it's just like, man, but then when I drive my other car, I'm just like, oh man, like I hate having to drive that car instead of just going off for like a Sunday stroll in that car. And it kind of reminds me of that. Like I'd hate to feel like I'm living, my body was that car, and every little scratch or little speck on the road that gets kicked up from a car in front of me that didn't have mud flaps or something and put a little bit of road rash on it isn't the end of the world. It's like a really beautiful person and they get like one pimple and it's like the end of the world for them, versus just like a normal person where it's like, well, you know, I do value the kind of anonymity or just sort of ability to blend in of the normal person. Raya. Oh yeah, Raya. That's what it is the app you were referring to. That's exactly it. I called it Rust.
To put that in perspective, that hour of sex is comparable to 11 and a half minutes of that corporate lawyer's time at $1,300 an hour. However, this is just an average rate for sex. In major cities, a high-priced call girl will cost around $1,000 an hour. Now, to an average guy, this is a lot of money. Most men do not have $1,000.
Shit, man, that's almost the mortgage.
To spend on an hour of pleasure. They think this call girl is expensive. However, to a successful man, this is a bargain. Not only is he still coming out ahead in the head-to-head comparison on the value of their respective time, he only has to work 45 minutes to purchase 60 minutes of her time, but relative to the traditional dating model previously discussed, he may have potentially saved $15,000 worth of time for $1,000 worth of cash. From a certain perspective, he's stealing from himself by not using escorts.
Yeah, this guy's really making the case over here. It's just funny. This is the second episode.
This thinking highlights the differences between scarcity and abundance mentality. So let me pause here to explain this further.
It's funny because on the one end, if you're a rich guy, it's about abundance mentality. But if you're a poor guy, just like that meme that we looked at the beginning of the episode, this meme right here. See, this guy's abundance mentality, but this guy's scarcity because he can't get anything that's here. So they both come to the same conclusion, but it's coming from like opposite ends. It's just funny. This guy's like, well, it's going to save me money. This guy's like, well, that's just, it's still less bullshit than having to deal with this. And then this guy's like, it's less bullshit than having to deal with this. It's just funny how that works out.
When I first moved to San Francisco, I lived in a shared house with a Craigslist roommate, and we would get into some disagreements about cleaning the house. The woman I was living with
a Craigslist roommate
wasn't doing so well. She wasn't thriving in life, and she didn't have a lot of money. On the other hand, my test prep business was catching fire, and I was using almost every hour I could spare to provide lessons to my students. As a consequence, I wanted to hire someone to clean the common areas of the house. If cleaning the house required 2 hours a month, I would rather pay someone $200 to allow me the opportunity to earn $500. It was too expensive for me not to delegate, as I would be functionally stealing $300 from myself to do the same job less well.
See, then if you're a rich guy and you can just hire a maid and all that, like, how is a woman acting traditional, folding up your underwear when it comes out of the dryer, the laundry? How is that a sale? It's just not a sale.
My roommate, on the other hand, did not have $200 to spend. She thought she was saving $200 by cleaning the house herself. And here's the thing. We were both right. Within our respective perspectives and economic realities, each of us was making,
I like that, respective perspective,
the rational choice. Now, if you don't have $200 to spend, you don't have $200 to spend. But the issue is that scarcity mentality can keep people trapped in scarcity longer than they need to be.
See, and then that's the other thing, right? Like, you don't have $200, but the rich guy has $200, so he can afford the maid to come over every now and then. But if you're on this end of the spectrum, where's my high IQ guy? Like, this guy he can spend $1,000 an hour and he can do it frequently. He can even indulge in it. This guy can't, but he said the average price was $250. Maybe like once a month, this guy can come up with $250 or like every, and then that's enough to keep this guy like hanging on and not, going off the deep end, if you know what I'm saying. So, it helps both of them.
Certain point.
Like, listen, you can hire a maid to come over every 2 weeks, or you can, it's kind of like getting your car detailed, right? Like, you can get your car detailed every month if you really got like money, or like you can do it once every 6 months and pay the same fee, but you took 6 months to save it up, and it's still nice to get it really detailed really nicely,
An individual's time always becomes more valuable than his or her money. This is true of everyone, though it will occur at different rates depending on the value of the individual's time in the commercial marketplace. People with scarcity mentality count the dollars they spend and track the dollars they save by doing it themselves. On the other hand, people with abundance mentality count the hours they spend and track the dollars they save by delegating to others. And this, of course, is a virtuous cycle. The more you delegate, the more you free up time to earn even more, to delegate even further.
Man, delegating is such an important skill to have. I've often thought about this. I used to think about this concept when I was younger. Even now, I do. That you can survive in the world when you can figure out how to make sales. Like, if you can figure out how to make sales for whatever, you can survive in the world. Whatever you're selling, if you can get sales, that's enough to keep you sustained. And it might even get you a little bit more. But if you want to become rich, you have to get other people to sell for you. So that's where the delegation comes in. You can sell something to somebody, but if you can sell a lifestyle to another person to become your employee and say, listen, and sell them on how good of a deal it is to sell whatever products you were selling before, and you can get like 5 of those, then you can become rich. And that's the importance of delegation.
That's how you take your time back and increase your earning potential. A successful man who uses escorts is effectively delegating his time to a professional rather than doing it himself. And he saves a considerable amount of resources by doing so.
It's interesting, too, because it kind of makes me think of like the body count question. Because you know how it goes down, I think, to the Madonna horror complex. On the one end of like marriage and actual relationships, the guys want the body count to be lower. But then on the other hand, have no problem paying $1,000 on the front end, and the woman has like 1,000 plus body count because, well, she's an escort. This is what she does. You know what I mean? So if it's like just for fun or whatever, body count doesn't matter too much. But if it's for like a serious relationship, then that's a problem for them. It's just interesting to think about. So now you have this high value man, and he's sitting here and he's dealing with the woman with the high body count. But I don't know. It's interesting to think about that. It just seems kind of counterintuitive.
Most women do not understand how much time, energy, and money men spend trying to get laid, even in their relationships. If we liberated that time, we would increase the GDP by billions of dollars overnight. For better or worse, getting and maintaining women is one of the single greatest expenses incurred by men on this planet.
Dude, kind of goes back to the businessman example. Like if you spend so much time trying to get a deal, like if you don't have that much money, but then like if you meet like rich people, like there's like some rich people I know where it seems like everybody comes out the woodwork to offer them free stuff because they're trying to get in their good graces. And then you reach a certain point where people are just giving you free stuff because they're trying to get a deal with you. Like I remember, I don't know why, I remember Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And I remember when that show first came out, and like Kim Kardashian would always be driving around in her Range Rover. That was like her car. I remember that being like her car. And it took me a while to probably like figure out that I don't think she bought a Range Rover. I think Range Rover gave her a Range Rover to drive in the show. You know what I mean? And I think we'd all be surprised by how much free stuff rich people actually get because people are trying to court them all the time.
And romantic relationships are one of the largest.
Where it's like me, I could sit here and spend hell of time trying to get a Range Rover and be like, oh, damn, this is way out of reach.
Resource redistribution schemes the world has ever seen. For men, it's almost always cheaper to be single. And for women, it's almost always cheaper to be in a relationship. That said,
God, that's such a good point.
I found that most men actually aren't that miffed about paying, probably because they've never even considered there might be another option. They just want a fair deal. The issue is that deal becomes less fair as the man becomes more successful. And this is less the consequence of the woman's entitlement, as some men might argue, and more a consequence of the man's success. So not only is hiring an escort, even a high-priced one, significantly less expensive to successful men than dating an average girl, the escort solves a bunch of other problems that are subject to arising in traditional dating. This man does not have to spend time swiping or approaching women, and he does not have to deal with the rejection and frustration that inevitably attend those activities. He does not have to spend hours or days texting back and forth to generate interest. He does not have to plan a date and make the woman feel heard and make the woman feel safe and make the woman feel aroused. He does not have to wait days or weeks.
See, I can't help but think of it again. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but he's saying like he doesn't have to wait weeks. He doesn't have to put hours into texting. But like if you listen to like the red pill stuff or whatever, the alpha guy isn't doing that. The beta guy does that. And the alpha guy might not even be necessarily rich or even need to get escorts, but he's the one who probably gives one-word text messages and just uses text for logistics, where like the beta guy is sitting here trying to do a bunch of romantic stuff and, you know, what's your favorite color and all this kind of stuff. And where it kind of seems, you know, like hiring the escort's just sort of like a shortcut way of using money to skip all that, but you're paying for it so you don't have to spend all the time, and I get the opportunity cost. I do still think that there's this other aspect there of that ultimately the guy who could still attract chicks naturally without having, I guess, to pay out or whatever. I think it's just still better psychologically in a way than doing that. But I don't knock anybody at all who goes to the JUCO, and you know, whatever works. That's like the most important thing. Whatever you're happy with is the most important thing at the end of the day. But I'd like to think the high value man I'm only pointing this out because if he's talking about a high value man using escorts, I just don't think that guy would have to sit there and be texting for hours in order to get this chick to like him. He'd probably be talking to a bunch of chicks anyways. It's just about surviving the back end breakup, the chaos that comes with that when she finds out that you're not marrying her.
For the woman in question to make herself available. And he is absolutely guaranteed of a sexual encounter if he so desires one. What's more, and this might rub folks the wrong way, but that high-priced escort is probably more attractive than the average woman on a dating app.
Kind of reminds me of like concubines. Like I think when someone's that rich, it's basically a concubine, which is sort of different, I guess, than like your regular run-of-the-mill escort. But maybe concubines need to come back into the conversation.
At the very least, a man who hires an escort generally selects the one who is most attractive to him from among the available options. This is a very uncommon experience for men. The fact of the matter is that it's much easier for women to get what they want, at least sexually. Why? Because most men will have sex with most women, but most women will not have sex with most men. This means that women can kind of get what they want sexually, while men typically have to settle for what wants them. But that dynamic is reversed when a man uses a prostitute. In this situation, the man ends up with the best he can get, as opposed to the best who will have him. The experience is also delivered to him at his convenience, when he wants it, where he wants it, how he wants it. And
it's like Uber Eats.
He can terminate the relationship at his pleasure at any time with no consequences.
Yes, see, this is what I think 90% of the payment is for the high value guy, is being able to go through the breakup or not seeing them without any problems.
In almost every possible way, when a successful man hires an escort, he gets more of what he wants and less of what he doesn't, far more cheaply relative to dating on the open market. Successful men don't date for the same reason very attractive women don't.
I think it also has to do with what you're looking for when you're dating. I mean, if you're looking for just sex, and that's one thing, but if you're looking for like an emotional kind of thing, or let's say you're this high value guy and you're hiring an escort, and let's say you're seeing the same woman, and then all of a sudden, let's say you develop feelings for that escort, and she's still working as an escort and she's being with other men. And maybe you've convinced yourself that like she actually likes you or something like that. Wouldn't that complicate the hell out of the situation? Like hiring and firing them is only going to work if there's no emotional tie there, you know. The problem will come in with the emotional tie. Now you could probably still fire her, but then I guess if you developed one-itis, as they'd say, you're going to have to go through some internal turmoil. But you know what? You can deal with the heartbreak. If it ain't, you know, child support or this or that, then a heartbreak is something that you'll feel better from after a little while.
They both have to pay much more for much less. Just keeping it real with you. What do you think?
It's the path of least resistance. Yeah, that's basically it. For me, it just depends on what you're trying to get, and what I almost believe a prostitute's job is not just sleeping with you. I think what they really spend their time on trying to be good at is convincing you that they actually like you when they really don't. That's where there was a passage by Malcolm X. I wish I had it. I got it saved somewhere, but it was from his book, and he was talking about, because I think he used to live in like a brothel for a little bit of time when he was younger. He might have had some time, being in the pimp sphere. And he was just talking about how most of the customers that went to the brothel were actually married men, and they'd all file in there. And he said what they were actually good at doing wasn't just it was stroking the other ego. It's not about stroking the, you know what I'm saying? And that's what made them really good and what kept the guys coming back. So that's what that's what escorts, especially real dangerous ones, are really good at doing, is they're so good at playing that game and convincing you that they actually like you, and it makes the guy want to spend more and more and more and more money on her, because it's sales. You know what I mean? A stripper is going to do that to you. She's going to walk up to you and try to compliment you and shit, and they're just trying to get you to buy more dances, spend more money. And an escort is always trying to do this, but you have to be very square in your deal before it gets to be too much. You know what I mean? Let's check out the comments. Women, if you make men wait, you will end up with the men with time on their hands. Why very attractive women aren't on dating apps? Because they are on Instagram. That's a good one. For men, it's cheaper to be single, and for women, it's cheaper to be in a relationship. I really like that quote. I think that one's a good one. All the happiest relationships I know literally just met someone and clicked with them. It should be that simple. Okay, now this is from Nicole. All right, Nicole. Let's see what Nicole has to say. It should be that simple. Well, it should be a lot of things, Marriage should be that simple, too. I think the problem is that most people of both genders are not prioritizing genuine connection. Oh, my God. Yeah, see, this is going to be the Disneyland stuff right here. She doesn't get it, man. She's way behind. The women are like 10 years behind on this, and, they're going to figure it out soon. They're just figuring it out from Huma Abedin. Oh, my God, yeah. I meant to tell you guys that. You remember we talked about Huma Abedin, and she was on that Good Morning show? Well, we got an update on Huma Abedin. Huma Abedin. Here we go. Huma Abedin and Alex Soros announce engagement. So she's 48. He's like 30 something. And he's the son of George Soros, the billionaire. And they just got engaged. Remember we were just talking about her in the last a stream like a couple of weeks ago? And you remember she was talking about like, oh, I was just so depressed. And if I didn't go to that event, and if I didn't go out that night, I wouldn't have met my now boyfriend. And the event she was talking about was the Met Gala. And the boyfriend she's talking about is the son of billionaire George Soros. And she just, I don't know. There was a lot of weird things about that. So, all men pay for it. Some men pay and still don't get any. That would be simping. But there's alpha simping and there's simping. Becoming successful might mean being busy, but real success is when you are not busy because your trusted people do most of everything. Well, yeah, there you go. That's the selling the lifestyle to people. That's delegating. Getting a lot of people to work for you so you can get a second yacht and go hang out in the Florida Keys. I'm a 51-year-old guy from Greece. After decades of feminine misuse, abuse, and disrespect from an era of women, I've been with during all this time ago. His English is it's all good. We're getting it. I came to the realization how precious my freedom. Oh, so he became a free agent. My peace of mind and the ability to do whatever the F I want without having to tell anyone, let alone ask for permission to. Man, these are the same feelings you'll go through if you're a guy and you go through a pregnancy scare. God forbid. You will start thinking about all the freedom you're losing and all the things you could have done and that you should have been doing before something like that happened. More importantly, I'm finally free of the drama, endless numbing empty talks, and discussions with all kinds of women. That 9-10 brought me only misery and never served me at anything good at all. So he's in the JUCO. He's over there. So Good for him. Good for him. I can shed some light on this. Having worked around successful men, they don't actually use escorts for sex most of the time. They use them because they show up on time and have a good attitude, as well as other factors. This is something even wives of these men will rarely even make an effort to do. Gosh. Well, because, yeah, once they get them suckered in, once they're the wife, then they get to stop trying because now the guy's over leveraged himself. And, you know, she knows what's going to happen if he wants to leave. It's basically just the least expensive women are the ones you pay for joke. I don't believe in separating successful men from any ordinary man when it comes to dating. A man with or without money is still a man. Man, you know what? Regardless of personality and / or achievements, I'm going to freaking give that guy a thumbs up. Yes, we're all men, regardless. Don't ever let anybody take that away from you. Mr. Pitt says, get you on screen. That's an interesting thumbnail in the upper right-hand corner. Why do men mate with prostitutes? Sounds like it dives into the guys that actually take sex workers seriously. Huh, let's see where you saw that. I'll see if I can... Damn it, I scrolled so down. Hold on. Okay, we'll start from the top. We'll try to find it. Interviewing an escort in her hotel room. That's one way to get views. A casual look at female dating strategy. 6 insight about women from being a male escort. 5 things. Marrying a sex worker. Is that what you were talking about? Here we go. Okay, Sadia Khan. Oh no, no, that one's different. Why do men mate? I don't think it was this one. Oh, here we go. I got it. All right, let's just get rid of the Sadia Khan one. We don't want to watch that one. All right. Oh, it's this guy. Oh, look, it's Psychacks. Okay. Let's see what he's got to say.
Why do men date strippers, prostitutes, etc.?
Oh, I think I know where you're getting at, but I'm going to answer the question.
See, he said date and marry. Okay, I don't know if Dr. Ryan Taraban's going to separate the two. He'll probably just talk about what he's been talking about because marrying and dating are two separate things. Like, I think he means just using the services of an escort. And that is not even dating. I would not even class that as dating, let alone marrying.
Question that you actually asked. So why do men spend time or date
okay, so he changed the question. So now it's gone away from dating and marrying.
Or call girls. My attitude around actual prostitution has changed as I've matured and become more successful. I used to believe, and this is definitely still the case, that the men who used prostitutes just couldn't get sex otherwise. And there are certainly men who use those services for that reason. However, the more successful a man becomes, the more expensive traditional dating becomes for him. Prostitution, even high-priced call girls, become cheaper than going out with a normal woman.
Sounds like it's about the same conversation. Charlie Sheen, I don't pay for them to come over. I pay for them to leave. Strippers are there to instantly release. This is going to be the extreme of the short-term angle. Regular women are completely opposite. Yeah, it's about the same stuff. Yeah, there was one more video. I think maybe we're all psyched out tonight. You know, what I remembered what I wanted to do, but I forgot, is I wanted to react to the Matt Cross interview on It's Complicated channel. And then I remembered there was a CGA interview on him. I don't know if you guys ever saw that one. Well, here's Matt Cross. This one was more recent. But he's interesting because he's a pickup artist, you know. So I did want to react to this one. I think I'll do this one next week. Matt Cross, I'm a fan of his. And then there's actually a Coach Greg Adams one too. And I think it'd be cool to get these interviews because it's like, it's not them on their channel and it's just like a straight flat interview. So this might be worth reacting to. I might do these two next week. So it's basically the same thing we just reviewed. Yeah, it's about the same thing. But yeah, Coach Greg Adams is going to be the legend here when it comes to the JUCO and the knowledge about the JUCO. But yeah, that's basically it. Oh, I said I was going to share a little bit. Yeah, so what I've been thinking about doing is I want to make a video to where like when someone clicks on my channel, they'll just see like a kind of about me video. But what I want to offer people is sort of one-on-one discussions about their child support case or their situation. And the only reason I'm thinking about that is because someone messaged me on IG from Australia, and I ended up talking to the guy for like an hour, and he told me all about the case, and he was like super grateful to be able to talk to me. He found my channel, and you know, for me it was kind of fun. I appreciated it. I appreciate hearing the stories and kind of remaining sharp on the subject. And then there was someone else called me also, but then recently my buddy's old coworker called me yesterday, and I talked to him for like 40 minutes just about his situation. He's got it bad, man. This guy's ex-military. He's got his VA benefit, and he works. So he's got like over $8,000 coming in a month, and he used his VA home loan to be able to buy a house with his wife, who he's been married to for 15 years, and they got 2 kids, 5 and 7. And the wife is running his ass through, man. She got the temporary restraining order on him. Her friend is involved. They made like false accusations that he was, you know, trying to harm the kids and stuff. It's bad, man. And he hasn't seen his kids in a while. But I talked to him. I ran some calculations for him of what he can expect for child support. And he was just super grateful and happy to be able to talk to me. And some guys are so deep in, there's not much I can do except tell them, like, here's what you can expect to happen. And then other guys are early on, and I can be like, hey, man, this might be, you know, this is how the law works. So whatever, I don't want to give legal advice, but this is the decision this is how the law works. Whatever decision you make is the decision you make. And I think it helps get rid of some of the anxiety people have when they get hit with the case like this or are in this situation. So I can just share my knowledge about, you know, what I saw at the child support agency and reading different divorce orders and things. But yeah, so I was thinking about doing that and just opening that up so people could email me or send me a message on IG. And I would just do it, you know, like donation based. If they want to give me something, they can. If not, it's all good. And kind of makes it easier on me because if I can't, you know, something comes up, like I get a hot date or something, I can cancel it easier knowing that, you know, they haven't given me any money. So I'm going to think about trying to do that. It would be cool if I could record some of those conversations I had with people were so good. It's just that I don't want to ask them to record it because they're being so forthright and honest with me about their situation that I don't think they'd want it put out here. So maybe some people, if they kept it anonymous, but that would be really cool. Even if people called in to talk about that stuff. So maybe someday we can get there. But yeah, that's about all I got as far as the Psychacks. Mr. Pitt, once again, thank you for giving me an idea and making the stream happen. I wanted to make sure to stream today at Saturday at 7 because every week at 7, I want this to be the time that I stream so people remember, like, okay, this guy's streaming at 7. I think it was a little tougher today, especially because of what happened to Trump. So I'm sure everybody's just watching the news and dealing with that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to call it and enjoy the rest of my night. I'm super grateful. Tomorrow's Sunday. Again, I was at my buddy's house earlier, and we were just helping him tear down or just fix stuff. He's remodeling a bunch of stuff. He just bought this house. So that was my morning, and I was about to sleep well tonight and just chill. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll be back next week. I'll try to put some videos out also now that my teeth are better and I just got to sit home and focus and you know, just get it done. So you guys take it easy, and I will see you